I'm Nick Walsh, and I'm in the Boot Club.
Pay It Forward Sports presents Kings of 4-on-4 Ontario Championships, April 14th through 16th, Ottawa and Quinte West. Winners meet in the best 2 out of 3 series to determine the Kings of 4-on-4 and win a trip to Las Vegas. Prizes include a trip to the Dominican, a second trip to Las Vegas, team NHL tickets, and more amazing prizes. Help support underprivileged kids and become the King of 4-on-4 provincial champions. For additional prizes and contest rules and pricing information, visit www.payitforwardsports.ca.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most liked athletes to come from the Quinte area. He grew up playing for the Quinte Red Devils, then Junior A in Cobourg in Trenton, getting a scholarship to Dartmouth D1 Division Hockey program along the way. He played 4 great years in Dartmouth, part of which he got to play with his brother Dut, who is now an NHL scout. He graduated and then went on to have a pro career in the SPHL and the ECHL. This guy isn't just a hockey star, but also a well-respected baseball player in the South Hastings League for years, and an Ontario ball hockey champion as part of the Demons. He is one of the most kindest and respected players I've played with, not to mention he has ties to one of the best hockey stick stores in North America, HockeyStickMan, and family who is involved with the NHL. Ladies and gentlemen, Nicholas Walsh.
What's going on, Walshy?
Well, hell of an introduction there, Brokey, and nice plug for the business, too.
I had to throw that in there, buddy. I know what it's like to own a small business. You want to get as many promos as you can, eh? But no, it's good to have you on, buddy. Thanks a lot. Obviously, I've got an old Quinte hat. You got the HockeyStickMan hat. That looks sharp. I might have to get one of those hats.
That is nice. Yeah, those are sick.
Not better than your hat.
I'll have to throw you guys one so you can wear them during the other podcasts.
There we go. That's not a bad idea.
Perfect.
So what's new, buddy? Thanks for coming on today. We got some fun stuff to talk about. Obviously, you know what? We just talked about the HockeyStickMan. Why don't you just tell us a bit about that? Maybe just off the hop, like how things are going. I know there's a lot going on. You guys are like building a massive warehouse type out on Maitland Avenue and all that. So what's up with that?
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on. It's a lot of fun. I have to give most of the credit to my brother Joey. He started it up 13 years ago now, and as you know, for many years it was out of my parents' basement, and a few years ago he was able to buy a place on Maitland to, kind of get a bit of a retail store going here in Belleville. And it wasn't too long before it filled up, and we had to start buying sea cans to put in the parking lot. So after a couple of years of saving up some money and deliberating, we were able to finally build a nice warehouse in behind it. So we're hoping this spring to have that up and running and a bit more space for the guys to work and everything. But
what's there though? Like, how big's that going to be?
7,500 square feet. So we'll finally be able to put some stuff on display, so it's not hidden underneath the sticks and everything like that. So we're pretty excited for it. And the guys, we have pretty much all our staff working on top of each other in a 10 by 10 space. So they're looking forward to it as well.
No doubt. I ran into Luke there. I think it was at Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever. What's in there? The one of the shipping places, not FedEx, Pure Later, right? Canada Post, sorry. Canada Post is in there. I ran into him, and he was ahead of me last week there, and I'm like, oh, this guy's, what the hell's he got? So hockey sticks. I saw right away, I knew it was Luke, but no, it's good. I see you guys are shipping, basically, he was telling me you guys are moving sticks kind of like almost all over the world, right?
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Joey got on Shopify early on in the e-commerce days, and started shipping a lot to the States, and it's kind of built up over time, and it's going all over the world, mostly to the States. But yeah, it's kind of neat to see some of these customers down in Texas and California and everything somehow coming across our company and buying sticks.
Well, you're doing something right, buddy, so that's always good. And,
Sure.
The connections obviously helped Joey with you and your brother probably playing hockey down in the States. I think that's somewhat how it got started, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, that's kind of a funny story how it all started with fixing broken sticks. It started out as Walshy stick repair in the beginning days. He found out about this way you could fix sticks, and he asked us what we were doing. We were just throwing them in the garbage. So it started out with me collecting. Anytime a guy broke a stick, I'd pull it out of the garbage, and I had a little pile going beside my stall. And then he would come down and collect them, like, a couple dozen at a time. And he started paying like $8, $10 for them. And then word spread across the league. Other equipment managers are like, some guy's driving around in a van picking up broken sticks. So he ended up getting his name out across the league. And that's just what he'd do. He'd drive around in a van and sleep in it at night sometimes and pick up sticks all along the way in the early days of HockeyStickMan.
You gotta love the business story behind that, though. Sleeping in the van.
Struggle with a small business owner, right? But
yeah, you got one, Flip?
Yeah, here. So Nick, you obviously had a great hockey career. You played at Dartmouth, but what people might not know is you were a pretty good baseball player too. I know Brokey touched on the intro, but did you kind of have like a conscious decision at one point to stop focus on baseball and kind of take the leap full time into hockey, or focus on that more?
Yeah, for sure. I can't really remember exactly when that was. It was probably around, I don't know, grade 8, grade 9 or something, just because I remember, I don't know, we were playing together. I remember it was getting down to playoffs and stuff in baseball, some pretty important ball. And at the same time, it was Quinny AAA tryouts, and I was missing some of the tryouts or showing up late. And it was kind of, at that point, if you want to make the team, you can't really be missing tryouts and stuff. So I think it was probably around that like grade 8, grade 9 where I had to stop playing baseball and just kind of focus on hockey.
Yeah, I don't know what year that would have been, because I think you played up until Major Bantam. I don't know what grade that is, but grade 9 or 10, so that kind of seems to fit the timeline a bit. But did you always kind of know that hockey was more important than baseball to you, or you kind of had more of a path forward in that?
Yeah, I think so. I think hockey was always my passion. I love baseball too. I can't really remember exactly, but I know that at one point when I had to make a decision, it was a no-brainer for me to go with hockey. So I guess as soon as the day came, I knew it was hockey. And it's a lot tougher as a, baseball player in Canada. Like, the path forward for hockey is there's different paths, but it's pretty clear what the options are. With baseball, I don't even know how, what direction people go with baseball, but.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
You'd have to kind of go something maybe similar, like AJ Burlington went in the States on a Division II. He didn't make it through for some other reasons, but I mean, it'd almost have to be something like that. But like you say, it's totally different, right? Like, hockey's so much easier. We're known for that in Canada here, right? There's more and more scouts and.
Yeah, like I guess obviously you go the college route in baseball, but I guess it was I don't know, I'm sure scouts come up and watch, but you don't hear about it nearly as much as junior A hockey. There's scouts coming up all over the place. So yeah, but no, ultimately, hockey was my passion, so that was kind of the decision. No problem.
So I want to get to minor hockey because I had to do a little bit of research today, because obviously we played together major midget. Johnny Foley was our coach, and we had a little bit of a mini Cinderella year, a little bit. We were just, not a very good team. I don't know about you, but that was one of my most fun years playing hockey, to be honest. We had a good group of guys, and I know there were some of your best friends even on that team, right? Like, that you didn't go on and play much after with. So, but I had to look, and I was like, and this kind of brings the baseball thing. I was like, I know I played with Walshy before that, but I couldn't think of it. So I actually have what do you call it here? And I was looking. So we would have played like with Buzz Clark, and then you must have took a couple years off AAA, and then we played major midget, right?
Yeah. I played. I made AAA. Again, I can never remember the years, but I played 1 year AAA with Buzz Clark. That was my first year. You were on that team. And then I didn't make it the next 1 or 2 years, so I went down and played for the Bobcats, and then went back up that year that you're talking about with John Foley, and we ended up doing, like you said, we had a pretty good year there, and I think that was a bit of a turning point for me and kind of making it to the next level.
Well, I don't know. That year you and I were of the same height. If not, I was taller, and you're a foot taller now. So I think you grew legit a foot in the next 2 years. I don't think I got an inch.
Yeah, I grew growing a foot in grade 11 or 12 or whatever it was. That definitely helped.
Oh yeah, man, you just grew like crazy. But that year I remember we were Johnny Foley ended up winning Coach of the Year for Quinny, but we were like last place halfway through the year, and we ended up sneaking into fourth place, top four, make it in the conference. or the division, whatever you want to call it. And we beat out Clarington, who was the first place team that year in the first round. And I think we lost out when we crossed over to Barrie or something. But I just remember being a fun year. And I've got poker chips sitting in front of me because I don't know, I sit at a poker table here in my garage. But I don't know if you remember, we used to play a lot of poker back then. I don't know, it was like that was when Texas Hold'em came out. And like I said earlier, you had some probably some of your best buddies, like obviously Danny Clark, but the Miles brothers, or they weren't brothers, cousins, right? Derek Miles,
Brett and Derek,
Miles,
yeah.
they would have been close to you, I guess, back then, right? And I think you guys even played on a line, you three, wasn't it?
Yeah, myself, Brett, and Derek all played on the line that year, and we grew up together, and both of them from the township. Derek and I went to school together, so yeah, it was kind of neat joining up with those guys because those two never really went the AAA route till very late either, so it was kind of new for them as well.
Yeah, I think Brett made it the year before, and he always had this like big snapshot on him. But how are they doing? I haven't seen them in forever. You ever talk to them?
Yeah, I not as much as I would like, but I stay in touch with them a little bit. I think Brett's in Montreal now, and Derek's in Sterling, has a couple kids as well. So, keep in touch with them, but it's kind of more like a once or twice a year type thing.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know Brett was in Montreal, so good for him. But and then obviously we both kind of made the jump Junior A. I ended up playing for Trenton and meeting you a couple of years later in Coburg. But how did that happen in Coburg? Because Johnny Foley went to Coburg too, right? And then Clarkie and Gable and a few of you guys made that jump.
Yeah, it was I still don't even know the full story there, to be honest. But that's why, myself, Clarkie, and Gable all went to Coburg because Foley got the job. So he kind of encouraged us to go there. And something happened during camp where, I don't know, some sort of discrepancy with Foley and the management. So we were all on the team, and then early on he left, but the three of us were already there. So we kind of stuck it out with Coburg. But I don't know if I ever really know exactly what ended up happening with Foley that he ended up leaving, but I'm sure he had a good reason.
So Foley was supposed to be the head coach that year?
Yeah, I think he was supposed to be the head coach. I guess here's my best guess. He was supposed to be the head coach, but I think management or somebody in the system was trying to call the shots from behind the scenes, and he wasn't really willing to be a puppet. So I think that's why he left. But again, he never told us directly. Pardon?
Was it Bill Brady that came in? Or was there a guy in between?
I think there was Drummond was my first coach.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So he came in, and then there was, Bill Brady, and then Wayne Marchment was also in there as well.
Yeah, because what happened was our third year in the league, Eamon and Trenton got sold or whatever to Quinte West Pack, well, as you know. So it was funny. So I played the first 13 games of the year with Quinte West Pack, which was the old Trent Sting, on your brother's team. Dot was on that team, right? And then I got traded to Coburg for the rest of the year. And the funny thing was, you guys were like close to last place. Not that Quinte West was much higher, but they were a few points higher. And the only reason Eamon and I said to go, that we're going to go, obviously we knew you and Clarkie, but Johnny Foley was there. And he was the one that made the trade for us. And then, I don't know if you remember, Bill Brady was the coach. After like a week, not even 2 weeks, he gets fired. And Johnny was the coach for one game against, I think it was Lindsay. Murray Free played for them, I think, that year. I could be wrong. And we won in overtime. And then the next day, they hired Wayne Marchment, and Johnny quit.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, we're there 2 weeks, and Johnny quits. And he's the only reason, really, that we kind of agreed to the trade. Anyways, we ended up sticking out the year. But you end up getting traded at the deadline back to Quinte West to play with your brother, which was kind of cool. And it obviously worked out for you because, you end up going to do I say it right? Dartmouth? Am I supposed to say it like that or no?
Yeah, Dartmouth. I think when they started talking to me or when I was going there, I called it, I can't remember who I said it to, but I called it Dartmouth. And somebody laughed at me and they said, if you're going to be going to the school, you should probably learn how to say it right.
Well, it looks like Dartmouth, though, doesn't it? Like,
yeah.
But, so, I mean, you must have been happy, I guess, because Coburg kind of was a little bit of a shit show by the end there. Well, and obviously to go play with your brother, too, right?
Yeah, it was funny. There's a couple things with that trade that you mentioned. I think when you said Coburg wasn't last place. We had to have been last place. I feel like my whole career we were last place. So I think we were dead last, and I got traded to, I can't remember what came up, but I was getting traded, and at that point I was like, it's my last year. I'd like to play playoffs. Haven't really had much experience making playoffs in my junior career, and I got traded to Quinny West, and they were the last spot to make playoffs, but I got traded there for the last 12 games, and we fell into second last and didn't make playoffs anyways. So it was, I guess
you guys didn't make playoffs?
No, we fell out of the. I think that year there was 2 teams that didn't make playoffs, so I got traded from the last place team to the second last place team, and still didn't.
No way! I didn't even realize that.
That's rough.
I got 2 funny things here though before you get in there, Flem. So I got these 2 plaques. I don't know if you guys can see. Okay. I got these because Walshy and Jober got traded. Top points and top stars. So thanks, Walshy, for that. Because I wouldn't have got it if you wouldn't have got traded. You would have got them. But I seen those today and I laughed because I'm like, I know Walshy would have had these. So he gets traded. He's off the team. Oh, next in line.
Broke, you never point part of that story that you were part of. There was myself, Clarkie. Well, there was definitely a bunch of different people over the years, but the 3 longest standing, myself, Clarkie, and Nickerson, carpooled every day from Belleville to Coburg, like 6 days a week for years. And then you and Amo joined us, ripping up and down the 401 every day. But I just always thought it was kind of a fun carpool because spending 2 hours a day with the same guys driving up back and forth. So you and I had some good rips there for a few months.
You remember Dick Lee? We used to call him Dick Lee.
Yeah.
I think Clarkie started that. Richard Lee. He's probably a doctor now, Flem. Legit. I think he's like a doctor in Australia, but he was always hyper as hell. And I remember this story. We used to get like a $50 gas card for the carpool a month, like something ridiculous. They would pay for like maybe 1.5 times to go. And I remember he drove one time and goes, so do I get my gas money? And we all looked at him. We're like, get fucked. Like, you're not getting anything. We've drove you all year. Like, get out of here, kid. And of course, he was a rookie, I think.
Yeah. Not to bust his balls, but every time we showed up and it was his turn, my parents needed the car or something. We're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, his dad probably loaded, worked for the military as like a pilot or something. Like, I think he had a little bit of money. Not that he was rich or nothing, but oh yeah, it was just funny. I remember that story. But you got one, Flem?
I was say you probably still got in your phone how much money the guys owe you from like 15 years ago, Brokey, back to the gas cards. But
Coburg, we all split. All the rest of us all took our turns. We were just pissed at Coburg because we're helping you guys out. It might have been more than $50 a month, but it wasn't anywhere close to the amount we spent on gas, right?
Yeah.
So Nick, at what point during your I guess your tier 2 career did you start getting scouted by teams in the States for college?
Very late, to be honest. I definitely wasn't a highly recruited player. Played in Coburg for basically my whole career. We were last place the whole time, never got playoffs. I talked to a few like D3 schools, a few Canadian schools late in my career. To be honest, it was pretty fortunate for me that Dartmouth kind of came out of nowhere. And funny thing, I first got recruited at the All-Star game. And that's not tooting my horn too much there because every team sends somebody. So I got to go from Coburg. And, it was a funny game. Like, everyone's cold. Nobody warms up. People don't take it that seriously. Like, nobody's going balls to the wall. Everyone's trying to make nice plays, but I definitely didn't think it would be a spot where scouts would be. And that's where I talked to the scout for the first time. And it was actually, I was playing for Quinny West, but I was at the All-Star game representing Coburg. So 12 games left in the season when I started talking to them. So it was like very, very late in the game. So it was, like I said, pretty fortunate for me.
So did they make you like an offer pretty quick, or how did that process kind of play out for you?
He chatted with me. Like, it was actually supposed to be, I was recruited for a year later than what I ended up going. He talked to me that day, and then he came to a few of the last games. Again, we had like 10 games left, and he came to like 2 or 3 at the end. So I chatted to him a few more times, and then they eventually made like a loose offer for me to come again 2009, which again would have been a following year. So I was like, of course, that's a great offer. Was definitely interested. And then it was, one night I was sitting there working at the Sunoco gas station at like 10 o'clock at night, and I get a call and they said, "Can you come next year?" And so it was like a last minute thing, and I had to like submit my application, everything in like 2 days to get accepted to the school, and kind of everything came together all in like a very short period of time. So it was pretty wild and, exciting because, like I said, I didn't have all kinds of schools lining up to sign me. So that was pretty great.
So you were supposed to go the following year? Oh, sorry.
Just jumped on it right away, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Brokey. I was supposed to go the following year, which actually, so my brother Dutt was a year behind me. So that was the year I was actually recruited for. And I don't know what happened behind the scenes, if somebody fell off or something like that. And then they recruited me for, at that point the season was like basically over when they kind of committed to me. So
why not, eh? And of course, a guy who was actually, we just did an interview with, a month or two ago, Scotty Fleming. He would have already been there, right?
Yeah, he was one ahead of me, so he would have been playing there.
So you must have had some chats with him to see what it's like, and or.
Yeah, I went down for my official visit. Once they commit to the next class, they bring everybody down for an official visit. So they line you up with someone who at that time's a freshman to kind of show you the ropes. And I got lined up with Flem, obviously. So I stayed in his room, and it was pretty cool weekend where I got to go down there and see the school and see everything. So it was pretty neat.
Yeah. So obviously it all worked out. So maybe tell us about your time there and any how the 4 years went. Obviously your brother joined you in year 2 as well, right?
Yeah. So the hockey side of it was great. I had some ups and downs in my career, but also ultimately, looking back, I'd be pretty happy with it. I got to play, most of the games in college hockey up and down the lineup from second line to fourth line. Like I said, early on, a couple bumps, a couple healthy scratches, but then once I got in, kind of solidified myself a spot and then got a full-time role, which was great. Our team, actually, I listened to the chat you had with Flem, and he mentioned our best year was his senior year, his junior year, my sophomore year was our, sorry, I keep screwing that up. His senior year, my junior year, had a really good year. I think we won the first 2 rounds. We got to go to Atlantic City where they do the kind of final playoff for our division. And with college hockey, it's all ranking. So we were ranked number 16, would have made the final tournament. But the team that wins each division gets in for sure, and then it's the next ranking. So even though we were ranked 16th, we got bumped out. So we didn't get to go to the final tournament. So that was a bit of a heartbreaker.
Oh, no way. So you end up getting like 17th, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. So we got bumped by 1. So that was a heartbreaker. That was our most successful year, though, and it was a lot of fun. So that was great. And then the school side, again, it was pretty neat going down there. Like the social life side of Dartmouth was pretty neat because it's a little different. Their system is like they have the frat system there rather than, there's no like off-campus housing, no bars. It's just like a small town. So like all the parties are, in the frat system. So that was a bit of a different party scene than what I had seen from visiting people from Ottawa U and stuff. It's a little different. So that was pretty wild. And then a big thing too, like whenever somebody came and visited me, I was always just so eager to show them around campus, just like the sports facilities. Like it was insane. Every team had their own field or their own rink or their own court. Like there was no sharing anything, like top of the line, gyms, indoor facilities, like indoor baseball training, like everything you could possibly think of they had. So it was kind of cool to show everyone around, show them all that stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, and Fleming or Scotty kind of mentioned that too. So they really look after you. Eh? Now, what about like fan support? The 4 years, were you like? Did you guys get a lot of obviously everyone from the school kind of go, or is it kind of geared towards the end of the year where you get more fans, or how does that work?
Yeah, we had a pretty good pretty good showing. I think our building seated 4,500 when it was full. It was very dependent on who we played. We had some big rivals, and Harvard, Princeton, Yale, kind of the big name schools that all our students would show up for, because those ones were big ones. So we'd usually pack the rink on those ones. But even on a regular night, we'd probably get it half full. So 2,500 to 3,000 on any given night. So it was pretty good.
You got one, Flem?
That's cool. No,
As I say, I think I won't repeat the story, but because I think Flem mentioned it, but Princeton game was always pretty cool, because the tennis ball game. So everyone would bring tennis balls, and the person who scored the first goal, everyone would toss the tennis balls on the ice. So that was the most exciting game, and everyone wanted to be that guy to score that first goal, to bring the tennis balls. Unfortunately, it was never me, but.
Do you remember
I don't know if Scotty
getting it? Oh yeah.
I'm not sure if Scotty got one of them or not, but
Captain Scotty, eh? He's always a captain everywhere he played too. Always, eh?
Yeah.
You got a question, Flem?
Yeah. So Nick, you were kind of talking about the frats and the parties. What was one party during the year that you didn't want to miss? Like, what was the big party not on campus, but in the frats for you?
there were some good ones. The one that jumps out at me was the one that all the hockey players joined. It was called Harrod. Anytime we had a Friday night and a Saturday night game back to back, we would usually host a party back at our frat, and it was a blacklight party. So all the lights in the frat would switch to black lights, and usually that was a pretty big night. It would be shoulder to shoulder packed after the Saturday night games. So those ones were pretty memorable. I remember bringing some friends down who came down to watch the games, and then they would come into that after, and it was pretty fun to show them around.
But if you want to talk about parties, Flem, you probably don't know this, but Walshy used to have some of the best parties back in the day. I could tell you some stories. I remember one. Oh yeah, and your parents loved it too, eh? Like they didn't care. I remember one time we would have been like maybe graduating that year or something, grade 12 or whatever, and you had a porta potty, and somebody was in there, and I can't remember what exactly happened, but that thing went down, and somebody came out just covered in shit, and he was running around chasing people, trying to hug them. I remember we all just took off like I'm getting nowhere. I think I went and hit my car maybe. Used to have some big parties. Was it like May 24 used to do it? When was it, Walshy? I feel like it was the same time.
Yeah, I know it was a big weekend, and it was outside, so it must have been May 24. But yeah, that was definitely the biggest one I ever threw, and it got a little bit out of hand. I told my parents it was gonna be like 20 or 30 people, and ended up being probably like 200. The word got out a little too early. But the funny thing with that party too, Brokey, is like the porta potty got pushed over. Some mailboxes, the neighbors' mailboxes got broken. Somebody drove their car around, and because there was like beer bottles, you could just hear like bottles smashing all over the place. So the next day though, when everything got uncovered, it was pretty much all my relatives who caused all those problems. So
so you were just pointed down the family tree, eh?
Well, there was like people from other schools and stuff that like I was trying to blame, and then word got out. It was like, no, it was all my cousins.
Holy, yeah, I feel like it was like 2 or 3 years at least that you had some bangers. Like it was like one big party here, and I don't know if it was May 24, but I remember going to a couple. Like the last time I probably had a chew, I was on the way one time, and I had this old Goldfarb van. I think Clarkie was driving it or something. And
I remember the Goldfarb.
All of a sudden, I started puking, and I think I'd swallowed it. We're like 16 maybe at this point. I filled up a great big Wendy's cup, and last time I ever had a chew, guys. Sorry, probably a gross story, but I just remember we were on the way to fucking Walshy's party. Everyone's all fired up, and we're all there looking for the girls. 15, 16 years old. Probably talked to 3 of them, but anyways. We better get back to hockey. We better get back to hockey before we get in too much trouble. Fun. Yeah. So. What were some of the big names that did anybody go and end up playing anywhere that were at Dartmouth? Any big name players like that, or maybe even guys that you might have played against playing college? Anybody you're like, holy shit, like this guy's just unreal?
Yeah, so on our team, a bunch of guys went to the coast. A few guys made it to the AHL. Only one guy that I played with. Actually, one guy was the captain in the AHL, Tyler Secura, who was captain for Rockford for a little bit. But the one guy that made the NHL only got a few games in, Matt Lindblad. He probably could have got, had a little bit better of a career, but he ended up having a back injury. But he got half a dozen games in the NHL. He was a good player. Unfortunately, we didn't have a ton of guys in my time there that went on to the NHL. But a couple guys I played against. One guy, very memorable, Alex Killorn, played. I think I played up 3 or 4 years against him. He was on Harvard, and he stood out. Like every time we played him, that guy was a beast. Like he was so strong on the puck. He was noticeable every single game. I remember thinking he might have been the best player in the league, and then he went on to obviously have a pretty successful NHL career. So I also played against James Van Riemsdyk a couple games, or maybe just one game. So again, I didn't really, I played against Korn probably, 16 times, JVR once. So I don't really have as much to kind of say about JVR. He was obviously a good player and went on to have a good career, but and then there was a lot of guys. The funny thing about the ECAC is that quite a few guys end up making it, but I think just because it's such a run and gun, like hardworking, dump it in, grind in the corners type league, that a lot of guys make it, but like third, fourth line guys, probably not big names that you would have heard of, but a decent amount of guys go on to have a bit of a career, cup of coffee at least.
Cup of coffee, eh? For anybody that doesn't know, so that's the Ivy League, right? So this is where all the smart people go. So like you must have had some real good grades in high school then, right? You and Duddy.
Yeah, I did all right. I'm nothing crazy enough to get me in there, obviously, but I was a long way from a perfect student. Definitely being a hockey player helped get me into that school. We'll say that.
So Dale Courtney go into the office and change those 70s to 90s, eh? No, I'm just kidding. She did that for Eamon, I think, though, probably from 40s to 50s, though. Oh, John Fitz. You guys had a lot of fun, though. I remember, I didn't hang out with many people at Quinny. Wasn't a lot of hockey players. I always hung out with, guys from your school, which is, St. Teresa's always had hockey guys for the most part, at least when I our age growing up, right? Even a couple years older, you guys had Richie and Andrew Courtney and, tons of guys like that, right? Did you play school hockey too? Did you play school? Yeah, you must have played school hockey, right? A couple years?
I think I did for 2 years. I know I didn't make it grade 9. I think I played grade 10 and 11, yeah. So got a couple years in. Unfortunately, we didn't go that far, but those guys you were talking about from St. Teresa's a lot, because my older brother Joey was in on that. They went to OFSA a couple times. They had a couple pretty good runs. So yeah, St. Teresa was always a bit of a powerhouse in the school hockey. We had one decent run, but never got to OFSA or anything.
Yeah, because I think the year you're talking about with Joey, Andrew Courtney played, and he was playing major midget or something, and something happened where he went to OFSA, but he wasn't supposed to and got benched at Quinny anyways. That's another story for another day, but I do remember that, right? So, but I actually no. Now it comes to my mind because I played for Quinny that year. It was when we were on the Quinny Red Devils together. For some reason, we were a bigger school. We played AAA, so we didn't even play you guys in the playoffs, and we ended up winning big Quinny AAA. But you guys would have dusted us for sure because you guys were AA. I think it was something like that. Come playoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't really remember the.
Well, we're talking
was
like
that,
a long
you said that was
time.
grade 9?
No, that would have been whenever we played major midget. So maybe grade 11, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because Gable would have been on your team, and the Miles brother, they both went to St. Teresa's, right?
We got beat out early on. The year that we were supposed to be the powerhouse team, we got beat out early on by, I think, Madoc or something. So that we might not have just made it far enough to see you
probably.
guys.
Tyson Terry would have been on that team, right? On Madoc, probably.
I think so, yeah.
He's crazy. Yeah. Oh, John. We'll get back to college. So, yeah, so anyways, you end up playing 4 years there and then, make the graduate and then you end up having a short couple stints in the pro leagues. Maybe tell us how that come up. Like when you were done hockey at Dartmouth, was there opportunities to to go to many places? And one of the things I want to ask, whether it was this year or not, but Europe, did that ever come up? Because, we talked to a lot of guys, and a lot of guys that go and play somewhere in Europe always say they love the experience. Did that ever come up for you?
I never did go. I guess kind of go back to your first question. Yeah, I went to after our senior year finished, so I still had to finish out the school year, but a lot of guys go have a short stint, like a PTO in the coast. So I went to Kalamazoo, and I think I played 4 or 5 games there, and right up until they had to start playoffs, and then I flew back to school. So that was pretty neat, playing in Kalamazoo, kind of getting my first little taste of it. I ended up rooming with Darren Archibald for the time I was there, and he actually went on to have a short stint in the NHL as well, which was kind of neat.
And he's played a lot with the Marlies and the B-Sens, I think, over the years too, hasn't he?
Yeah. So he had a pretty good career. It was kind of neat. It was neat to see how different the game was. Like I said, in college hockey, it's 4 lines, and you're trying to earn every shift. So the second you get out on the ice, you're just going as hard as you possibly can. And then you get to the coast, and it's 3 lines with a 10th forward, and the guys play 3 times as many games. You might play 3-4 games in 1 week. So it's a little bit more, people kind of conserve their energy a bit more, and it's not quite as run and gun. It's a bit more of a positional and, passing game. So it was kind of neat to transition from, college hockey to East Coast. It was quite a different game. So I did that. Kalamazoo Wings, went back to school. The next year, I actually signed with the Kalamazoo Wings in the off season to go play there the following year. But that was the year of the lockout. So I remember going into Kalamazoo and that half an AHL team there. So I knew it wasn't looking good for me. So then I went down to Mississippi River Kings in the SP and played there for a few months. Played there for a couple months. It was a pretty cool experience. The SP it was still good hockey. Living in Mississippi was a unique experience. I'm glad I did it. Probably wouldn't go back, but it was
one of those ones, eh?
You're not allowed.
Yeah, not quite. But if somebody asked for like a destination to go on vacation, I probably wouldn't recommend Mississippi. But I had fun there, though. There was great guys on the team, met a lot of good friends. I think I was there for 3 months, and then the lockout, I remember like every day looking at my phone, like hoping the lockout would end, because obviously my goal is to get up to the next level. So when the lockout ended, I went up to Gwinnett and played for them for a bit.
Where's Gwinnett? I've never heard of that place.
They're Gwinnett Gladiators. They changed their name. They're still there. I think they're called the Atlanta Gladiators now. But
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Oh,
right in Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah, so played there for a bit, short stint there, and then traded to San Francisco to finish off the year. So I guess you could say I was a bit of a suitcase, three teams in 1 year. It was a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people. The hockey was fun. I wouldn't say I had a lot of success hockey-wise that year. It was constant, fighting for that last spot, trying to get ice time, but it was great. Great experience. Got to see some cool places. Obviously lived in San Francisco for a bit playing hockey, so that was great. I kind of forget the question, Brokey. I just kind of rambling on. Then you asked about Europe. I never did.
Yeah, I forgot about it too.
Yeah, trying to answer all your questions. I'm just kind of rambling now. I never did go to Europe. After that year, I was considering going back and playing 1 more year, and I had like a loose offer from the Vegas Wranglers in the East Coast, and then another option to go over to Europe.
Vegas, that could have been dangerous.
yeah. So it was a tough decision. I just ultimately decided to hang them up and start working. People think it's a crazy decision, and maybe it was, but I think the big thing is that those offers are as good as a handshake offer, really. Like, they don't really mean anything. So you can sign a contract and go, and then fly over to Europe and realize that you're there for a tryout. So I think that ultimately was a big reason why I just decided to hang him up. Sometimes when I hear about, Murph and Flem and those guys that went over and how much fun they had, I probably should have done it, but I ended up hanging them up.
Well, they say that EIHL, or I think that's what it said, over in Scotland and England is quite a lot of fun, eh? Well, Fleming and Auger, even like a lot of the big names went. I think even Bolesky went for a year when there was the lockout. I don't know if it was that same one, but yeah. And anybody you play with those? Did you play with Yanni Gord? Or
yeah, he was my roommate.
He was your roommate.
Yeah, you know what? That's kind of a cool story because when you're watching him in the show, obviously great player, has had a great career. But you hear it every time. Like this guy was in the coast, came all the way up from the coast to the NHL, which is a cool story. He wasn't in the coast for very long. he was in the AHL and he got sent down for a couple weeks and then right back up. But it was kind of neat because when I got traded to San Francisco, he was my roommate, so he kind of introduced me or showed me around. Here's the apartment. We carpooled to the rink and stuff like that. I think maybe 10 days at most he was there, and then got called back up. It was pretty neat. He was my roommate and my line mate for those few days he was down on the coast, and then he went back up to the AHL, and I think it was like the next year he was in the NHL. So yeah, he took off. He did well.
Could you see it? Could you see him? Like, could you see, this guy's going to be a future NHLer kind of thing, or?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Future NHLer is tough to say, but he definitely stood out. Like he came the games that I played. Like he was actually even smaller than he looks on TV. Really small, but could fly. So I think he got a few points a game and then was right back up to the AHL. So it was, it almost seemed like he got sent down for maybe more of like to send a message and then right back up. So still neat, coast to the NHL, but he wasn't grinding it out in the coast, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not like he's playing 5 years in the coast and then a year or a couple years, but still cool. They got to make the story sound good, right? They always do.
Yeah.
Well, what was San Fran like? Because I don't know anybody that's played there other than you. Top of my head, anyways.
Yeah, San Francisco was a great spot. I definitely did a lot of touristy stuff and tried to make the most of it while I was out there. But if you're on Hockey DB or something like that, take a look at that roster. Like it must be one of the biggest rosters I've ever seen. They were bringing players in and out, trading guys like every other day. I was there for, I don't know if I was there like a month and a half or something like that. And by the end of it, I was like one of the longest standing players in the lineup almost. Like I remember I went in, was trying to ask people like where stuff was, and they're like, I've only been here for 2 days. And then by a week later, people were coming asking me where to find stuff just because like it was a revolving door. And if you look at the
58
roster,
guys on this roster.
How many?
That's insane.
Yeah.
58. How many? So did they not have limits on cards though? You'd think there'd be like a 40 limit card. They must have that in the NHL, did they?
I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of system they had going there, but it must not have worked for them because I think the next year they folded. So, yeah, they're not around anymore. But again, if you can play hockey in San Francisco, not too much to complain about there.
Oh, for sure. Now I got a question for you, just kind of to base it on the few pro places you played and even maybe college too. What was it like as far as fans go? Like, what was kind of the best place to play and maybe not so much? Like, did Mississippi get good crowds? Because I've heard sometimes those SP teams, some of them do and some of them don't kind of thing.
Yeah, the SP, we actually got decent fans. Like, Saturday night games, we definitely get a few thousand, like maybe 4,000 on a big night, which is pretty good for the SP. Definitely a different crowd than you might see up here. They're there for the fights.
They probably don't even know what offside is.
That might not be fair. They like the game, but there was definitely a lot of them there looking for fights. It seemed like every team had a more or less a designated fighter. We had a guy on our team that everyone else would be warming up, and he'd put the boxing gloves on and kind of warm up like a fighter more than a hockey player. And then he would sit on the bench, not see a single shift until the coach would give him a tap. He'd go out, fight their fighter, and then that'd be that. So
Who was it? Do you remember his name?
Yeah, his name was Fucali. I can't remember his last name.
Fucali. Oh no,
Fucali. I'm probably saying it way wrong, but he's an interesting guy actually because I think he had maybe a rough few years. I think he said he was in like a gang or something like that. Maybe went down a pretty dark path for a while and almost got himself killed. And then he turned his life around, like started going to church. He became like a preacher, kind of, I guess you'd say, like a motivational speaker at churches and stuff like that, and stopped drinking and just kind of became very straight-laced. So like we went to a few of his events where he's like, talking to kids and stuff, totally turned his life around. And it's kind of a cool story. But the one weird thing was like, he didn't do anything bad at all, like very straight-laced guy, except for he fought 3 nights a week. So
that's crazy. You think like I was thinking he changed his after he played hockey with you, but this is like before. So he's going out fighting guys, and then he's that's strange. You don't hear about that every day.
No, he was a neat guy. I liked him. Like I said, he'd kind of turned things around by the time I had met him, but unique guy, so he was fun to hang around with. But that was Mississippi. It was pretty good. But then some of the other teams like Gwinnett, the next one I went to, and ECHL, it was so dependent on the night of the week. Like you'd have a Tuesday night game and have 500 fans there, and then you'd have a Saturday night game, and we would sometimes have as many as 8,000. So it was
that's a big difference, man.
Yeah. The Thrashers weren't around at that time, so basically, if anyone was into hockey, it was the only real option to go watch it. So I guess any hockey fan in the area would come watch. So we had some pretty good fans there, and then that'd probably be the max that I played, would be around 8 to 10. But it's pretty, obviously gets you pumped up when you jump out on the ice and in front of, any number of fans, but you have 8 to 10,000 in a packed house. It kind of gets you pumped up for sure.
Oh yeah. You get the Avicii going. I don't know if Avicii was around then. Hey, Levels.
Oh yeah.
That song just gets you fired right up.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. So you and I play together, so you know what I'm like. Like I could get pissed off and yell at a ref, and you're just always calm, just calm as can be. Like, I know obviously you played a lot more years afterwards, so I don't know firsthand how that stuff went, but you're always a calm guy, and everything was cool. And how do you do it that way? Like that's my question. Like, I don't know. I was the opposite, way too far. Would get 10-minute misconducts for yelling at a ref. And I know there's other guys that are like me. What was the trick? Like, is it just in you, or
I don't know the answer to that, bro. Maybe somewhere in the middle would be the sweet spot, somewhere in between your intensity but no, I don't know. Like a lot of times people would actually get kind of mad at me, like, get fired up, kind of start chirping someone. So yeah, I don't know. Just never really had that, intensity that you had in me, which not that I ever really got into many fights, but when I was trying to get into the lineup in the coast and stuff like that, a few times I dropped the gloves, but again, like I wasn't even really that fired up. I was just trying to get in a fight to earn some ice time. So yeah, I guess it's just I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but
so I feel like Duddy kind of the same way, but Joey wouldn't have been that way, right? Joey would have been more like me, wasn't he? No.
Yeah, Joey, I'd say Dutt and I are a bit more relaxed on that side. And Joey, yeah, he gets fired up. Funny that you say that because he still plays competitive hockey with a bunch of 20-year-olds. And he calls me sometimes. He's like, I think I need to move up to the old timers. He's like, I get too mad at these 20-year-olds, and I'm almost getting in fights in men's league on a Thursday night.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
That's a good one, yeah.
I think I actually played, when I would have been done, you would have been probably in Dartmouth by this time. I think I played Tuesday night with Joey. I'm pretty sure he played on the team for a couple of years, maybe 4, and then. But how long is he? He's in Toronto, right? He's probably been there a while though.
Yeah, he's been there a while, but yeah, you probably would have crossed paths with him maybe for a couple years in men's league, and then also in ball hockey, I'm sure too.
Oh yeah, ball hockey for sure too. Flem, you got one?
Yeah, so I want to give you a minute to pump your tires here, Walshy. So give me one moment during your career where you made a sick play or something like that where you thought, I'm the fucking man right now.
Well, you know what? Actually, I do have one. My claim to fame is I got a hat trick against Harvard, hat trick and an assist, so 4-point night against Harvard. And I was like the first player in quite a few years to score a hat trick for Dartmouth. So that was kind of my claim to fame there. And it actually held for a few years. I was down there I think I was on a stick trip picking up sticks from Dartmouth, and a couple of years ago, and a guy got a hat trick, and they're like, this is the first hat trick since like 2010 or something like that. I was like, oh shit, I had a good run.
So Scotty Fleming, no hat tricks with Dartmouth?
No, I guess not. Scotty scored a lot
Duddy?
of goals, but he must have had a lot of two-goal nights, but he must not have got the third one.
Or your brother though? No hattie from your brother?
No.
Oh, you got to hold on to that one, buddy. I'd be telling everybody.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
Do you remember your first goal in college?
What's that?
Do you remember your first goal in college?
Yeah, I do, and unfortunately, it was my second year. I didn't score my first year, so I hung on to that one for a while. But no, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was against Brown. I actually scored 2 goals that night, first and second in the same game.
Well, that makes up for it, buddy. That makes up for
Well,
it.
I just remember like I was my second year and I scored, and they're like his first career college goal. So I was like, okay, whatever, fair enough. And then I went scored a second one. And they're like his second career college goal, and I was like, all right.
Now you're like, okay, just say second of the year kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like let's move on after you hear it the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not say that every time.
You're in your 4th year. Yeah, his 32nd college goal. I mean, unless it's really a record, but that's too. So did Duddy score before you then?
Yeah.
Oh, that's when he holds that one on you then, eh?
I was gonna say I can hold a hat trick over his head. He can hold a lot more things over my head though, so I probably won't rub it in too much.
So he's been. We might as well just touch on him real briefly. He's been in Las Vegas, right, since they started.
Yeah, even before, he helped kind of in the early days when they were making moves. So he's been down there since then.
Now I called him a scout in the promo or intro. He's like a statistics scout, is he not, or what? What exactly does he do there?
Yeah, he's heavy into the analytics, which I probably shouldn't try to explain it. I won't do it justice. But no, it's really cool. Like, people say like I'm not an analytics guy, or I am, but like I think if you talk to him, you would realize like you should be an analytics guy, because it's not like you have to make every decision based on it. It's just more information to help you like make decisions. So it's really cool what he does. Again, I'm not going to try to talk about it because I won't do it justice. But yeah, he does quite a bit of cool stuff, and he's in the meetings with McPhee and McCrimmon and stuff like that, and helping putting his input in on these decisions. So it's pretty cool to pick his brain a little bit after things unfold.
So, have you guys seen the movie Moneyball?
Yeah.
So would he be like that smart guy where he asks him, like, okay, do I take this guy, or like where they're throwing a guy in for the trade? Is it like I'm just trying to imagine it's something similar?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good way of saying it. I actually do say that sometimes. I'm like, he tries to do like the Moneyball thing in hockey. So yeah, I would say that's a pretty good thing. I don't know if he's like, it's not just him, like analytics. Yeah. They have another analytics guy too, maybe even multiple. But yeah, I would say that's a pretty good comparison to what he's doing down there.
How cool is it that it's in Vegas though? Like, have you been a couple of times, and how much fun do you have when you go?
Oh yeah, I've been a bunch. I haven't been there in over a year. Probably since COVID actually. So I haven't been in a while, but in the early days I went quite a bit. The first year was that big run they went on, Stanley Cup Finals. I was actually between jobs at that point, so I wasn't working and had like a couple months before I started my other job. So I flew down, I think, for the semifinals. I can't remember exactly, but bought a one-way ticket down to Vegas, watched the semifinals, and was about to go home. And that was like, well, why don't you stick around for the finals? So I ended up being there for about 3 weeks. I just didn't leave. Got to watch like probably like 10 hockey games. And, you know, I was rooting hard for Vegas. Obviously would have liked to seen it go their way, but Ovi ended up hoisting the cup. So it was kind of neat to be able to say I was there for that.
How cool was it though during that run for Vegas? Like, were the games unreal? Because they seem like just the crowd, and even for, you know, since the years they played, it just seems like I've thought this myself, like some of these organizations, Ottawa for one, put on a bit more of a show. Like some people complain they're a little long, and okay, a little bit, but I love that they put more effort into it, right?
Yeah, it's a big show. They you know, they always have something going on. Like I remember the first one I was there, somebody got married in the intermission. Like I can remember one of the games, Imagine Dragons put a four song show on either, I think right before the game or in the intermission or something. You know, the fans are wild. It's just a big party. Like I would say it's one of the best atmospheres for sure.
What's the best hotel or casino to go to? Or do you stay out of those?
No, you know what's funny when you say, cool thing about visiting is that I've been to Vegas for a bachelor party, and basically like you're in there for 3 days, you go really hard for 3 days and you're ready to go home. When you're going and visiting somebody that lives there, you can actually do some things that kind of like a little bit off the strip that kind of see a different side of things. So that part's pretty neat. But the one thing I want to say too about the Vegas crowd that's pretty cool is that I don't know if it's still like this because they have a pretty good following themselves, but in the early days, whoever they were playing would bring in maybe more fans than Vegas, or maybe be like 50-50. So if I went to a Flyers game and like half of the stands was Flyers, half Vegas. So it also got a bit of a battle going, which made it kind of neat too.
Well, that's what it is, eh? And I actually heard that too, that like, you know, I'm an Ottawa fan. Well, Ottawa's in Vegas. Let's take our vacation there, right? I think that's what it's almost like an excuse for the fans. It's you'd rather go to Vegas than Philadelphia or whatever kind of thing, right?
Yeah, excuse to go to Vegas, and for some teams, again, maybe not anymore, but in the early days, for some teams, it'd probably be cheaper to buy a flight to Vegas and a ticket than to try to go to like a Leafs game or something, right? So.
Oh yeah, especially if you're going to get good seats. Well, I got to ask you then. I'm a travel guy. What's a couple things to do in Vegas that you wouldn't normally do?
Geez, you put me on the spot here. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. Just some cool, like, you know, local watering holes he's got there that are off the strip. You know, went to a few shows. Obviously, I guess gambling, but that's something everybody does when they go there.
Golf? Got to be some good golf. Like, do you golf?
I haven't golfed there. Dutch golfed quite a few times in some really cool courses. I never have. Yeah, geez, maybe I shouldn't have pumped it up. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. I guess what I'm saying is I didn't just drink my face off every day for multiple days straight.
Yeah, that would be quite the Las Vegas hangover. Holy. You got any more questions about Vegas, Flop?
We had any? Were you involved in any poker hands or any big wins kind of when you're down there gambling?
No, mostly just losses overall. I don't think I've ever lost. Well, actually, Dut showed me how to play craps one time. I'm more of a blackjack guy, and he showed me how to play craps. And I think we got up one time. We pooled our money because I guess the strategy is you got to be able to throw a little bit more on the table, and we were up $1,800. I don't think we left with $1,800, but I'd say that was the highest I ever got. The other nights I usually left without money, but I always said it was a wash because they'd bring you free drinks as fast as you needed them. So I was like, you know what? I don't know if that pays for it, but that's what I'm telling myself.
That's what they were expensive drinks that night, but they were good, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to bring up a couple funny memories. that we had back in the ball hockey days. So I called them the Demons, but we won provincials and went to nationals in Vancouver, and that was fun. So my dad was the coach, Andrew Courtney was the assistant, and Nick's dad was the trainer. And one of the funny thing was, he was I don't know if you know where I'm going with this, but so we used to play in the men's league, like during the season, and then you go to your tournament kind of thing. So we were only like, what would you be, 16, 17 maybe? I don't know, something like that, right? Maybe 18, I don't know. Anyways, and we're only team with a coach because we're young. Everyone else is, 20s to 40. And I remember the one day my dad's coaching, and your dad brought a cooler for my dad on the bench and goes, "Clarence, would you like a beer?" And he's like, "What? No?" And anyways, all of a sudden, I swear to God, it was like the next period or something. I looked down, Pete's pouring a beer into a cup. I didn't think anything of it. I'm thinking, Pete's having a beer, because back then the benches were different. You could kind of be like off of it. And then all of a sudden, I look, the next shift, I come off, and my dad's sitting there having a beer on the bench. I mean, nowadays, if somebody caught wind of that, Jesus Christ, that'd be the end of it, right? You're having a beer and you're coaching, kids. But I know Eamon and I have laughed about that one a couple of times. We had some fun times.
As soon as you brought up the coaching staff, I knew that's where you're going with it, because I remember it perfectly too, because my dad cracked a beer mid-game and looked up like, "Clarence, you want one?" And Clarence looked at him like, "What are you doing?" Like, beer in the middle of the game gave him like such a weird look, and then it wasn't 2 seconds later he was down there sipping one with them. So it didn't take long to Didn't take long to twist his arm.
Oh no! Well, they both like their alcoholic beverages, both on a good note. But I think it's both safe to say that. And well, actually, we brought them up. So we played provincials, right? And then we won. Do you remember Tyson running around my dad with the water or something, and like dancing around him, pouring the water on his head? I don't know. I always remember that one. That was a fun year. And then of course we lost to Tyler Ennis. Remember how good
Tyler,
they were?
yeah.
Edmonton team, Tyler Ennis was the star. We lost 5-0 or something, 5-1 or something like that in the finals. But I remember they all wore pants. And we show up, we're like, who's this team wearing pants? Like, they're horrible. Well, they go on to win the tournament, and they got Tyler Ennis on their team. Remember how good he was a ball heel? He was unreal.
Yeah, he was. Oh, yeah, I remember that, because we lost because we were pretty good, and we were winning every game. And I think somewhere in, like, the early games, we lost to them maybe by a couple goals or something. Like, it was a close game. But I remember thinking, like, we should have beat them. And then we went on to face them again in the finals, and I was like, okay, we got these guys. And I think they just freaking cleaned us out like 8-2 or something. And
That was a blowout the final.
Yeah, and Ennis probably got like 6 goals. And I was like, I remember going home, like, first thing I did was look him up, Tyler Ennis. And it turns out he did all right for himself too. But he could stick handle faster than anyone I've ever seen. So
he was unreal and so quick, obviously. And you know what? Still playing pro, I believe, over in – because, yeah, he's playing the Spangler, I think. I think he's playing over in Europe, isn't he?
Yeah.
Something like that. He's 35 years old or whatever.
Yeah, he had a pretty good run in the NHL and played for quite a few teams. Was he with the Leafs for a bit there too, even?
He was, yeah, because he was with Buffalo for a long time, Ottawa, and then Toronto for a bit, Flum, or no?
Yeah, he's with Toronto, yeah. I think Toronto traded him to Ottawa, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe, or vice versa, one or the other. Yeah, you could be right. Well, he would have played. I'm going to say he's got to have 800 games under his belt. Like, he played quite a bit. But no, just funny how we played against him. And I don't know if you remember, but we played Newfoundland in the semis, and they had a sick team too. They were nuts. And I remember
they were a big team. I remember those guys.
Oh yeah, they had some big boys. So they had this.
We wouldn't have wanted a bench brawl against those guys.
Oh no, we were losing. No, we didn't have too many fighters on our team, I don't think. But I remember Terry Gable. Yeah, he took a penalty or something. Anyways, we were shorthanded. I think we were tied, and Eamon gets the ball behind our net, takes a slap shot, and scores. And I think that was either the tire or the winner. And all you see is Jarrett Tanner's dad, Terry Tanner. We used to call him T-Square because he had big cast like this. Just boom, like it was a field goal. Eamon loves telling that story, but I thought I'd tell it while you had it on here. So we definitely had a lot of fun playing ball hockey back in the days, and I know that's what made you get to Dartmouth, buddy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You got any other questions, Fluff?
Just so when you look back, I mean, just, a kid from a small town, you didn't make AAA when you're young. When you look back at it, how proud are you of your career?
Yeah, that's a good question, Flynn. The more I look back at it and reflect on it now, I'm, super, super grateful for my career, because you see, all along the way, you see some guys that are great, that don't go very far, and some guys that, are okay and they keep going further, and you kind of always analyze your career and at what points where you could have caught a break that you didn't, or you could have played better. I think you always do that as an athlete, but then when you look back on it, you kind of get to see like how fortunate you were. Like I said earlier on, I was pretty close to hanging on my skates and going to university as a student and not playing beyond 19 years old. And then to be able to catch the break that I did and go down to school and have such a great college career and then a short pro career after, like I couldn't be more thankful. I would say I was one of the guys that caught that break to be able to have that opportunity. So it was great. And then obviously the friends and everything else that came along with it, you can't underappreciate any of that.
And to go to one heck of a school too, right?
What's that?
And to go to one heck of a school and to get your degree and now to make your millions in Belleville, right?
Yeah. What's funny, actually, like I didn't ever give that when I was being recruited by Dartmouth, and I knew it was a good school. I'd heard of it and went down there, still kind of like very much focused on the hockey part. And it wasn't until I was there and kind of saw the opportunity that was in front of me and some of the people that I met, that I realized, like, holy shit, how lucky am I to be able to, be at Dartmouth College, get an education, playing hockey. So, it was fantastic.
What'd you study when you were there?
Economics.
Okay, I thought it was that. I thought it was that.
I never knew
Ask
what
Brokey
path I wanted to take. So
Shut up,
that?
Ask Brokey to spell
Yeah.
Fleming, I know numbers a lot better than you, buddy. Shut it. 1 + 1 = 2, right?
Economics was the course that allowed you to kind of keep your options as open as you could. I would say it was like the only real business course they had there. So it was kind of, I'd say 3/4 of our team were taking it too. So it was pretty easy decision.
Just a broad range of everything. So like you said, most of your guys would be in your classes, right?
Yeah. We normally try to schedule that way. Like we're all in a similar class, and it was kind of a nice trimester schedule. So we'd have instead of having to have like 8 classes or 6, you only had to have 3. So it was and you only had class 3 of the 5 days a week. So it was I guess. Yeah, you could work yourself a pretty nice schedule when you're down there.
And what do you think about the schedule though? Like, is it enough games, or like obviously you got your schooling? They just don't play a lot. I've always thought that.
Yeah, you know what? That's what's even the Ivy League is within the ECAC. Like other ECAC teams play an extra like 10, 15 games. So that was always something that pissed us off a bit, because Ivy League rule is that the coach couldn't come on the ice till a certain point, and then we couldn't have like an exhibition till a certain point. And our first season, by the time we were playing our first season game, other teams in the league would have already played like 8. So we always hated that. Felt like we were at a bit of a disadvantage, but I don't know. That's just the way they've always had it, because they're big on balancing education with sports. And once they have a tradition down there, they don't like to break away from their rules and traditions. So I guess that's just the way it was. But yeah, I guess I would have loved to have played another 10, 20 games for sure.
Did they have any other traditions? Like you said, the tennis ball one, right? Where was that? Yale or?
Against Princeton, yeah.
Or Princeton, sorry, yeah. Was there any other crazy traditions?
Yeah, there was none that I can think of off the top of my head that would be that interesting to tell. Some of the traditions they may no longer do, because they would shut the program down. But I won't get into those ones.
Rookie party.
Yeah, actually, you know what? There was quite a bit of initiation, and the frat beside us actually got shut down because they got caught initiating some guys, so they got completely shut down. They took it. It was right at that time where people were still doing the initiation, but they were really cracking down on it. So we saw some pretty severe penalties happening. So.
I remember back in junior days, that was one of the best things was Eamon and I went to Quinny West rookie party, and then we got traded to Coburg, and you guys had your party. So Nickerson didn't get a rookie. I think Nickerson actually came to the Coburg one. Yeah. Didn't he? I think so, because he's like, I never got a rookie party, and you guys were good buddies with him, and, we didn't care. He was a good guy. But I just thought that was funny that you brought that up. But nowadays you got to watch with the rookie parties and all that stuff, right? Maybe not rookie parties, but the initiation and all that. It's, I don't know. Some of it I think is fun if you don't go too far. And some of the things you hear stories about, you're just like, some of these elephant walks, and I'm not going to get into them, but stuff like that, you're like, wow, like that's just too much.
Yeah. I think, you know what, I think we were like the very tail end of it, like our age group, because I talked to some of the guys there now, and they don't do really any of it anymore, which is probably a good thing. Like, you don't want to risk getting kicked out of the school and all that. But yeah, like I said, I feel like we were still doing it. I was initiated all along the way, but they were really cracking down on it at the time. So,
you got one, Flem?
Yeah, I was going to say, so when we played baseball together, I was going to talk about Jim Burlington for a minute. So did you have any coaches kind of along the way that were as intense as Jim? Because I think, Brokey, you'd know Jim too, right? AJ's dad. So I just always remember him as kind of a little bit of a hard ass. I think you thought the same way. So any coaches kind of as intense as him?
You know what? Brokey mentioned it earlier, when we played for Foley, he was pretty intense. Like, that guy put all his passion and everything into coaching, and fortunately for me, he liked me as a player, so I got to it really helped me get some ice time, and like I said, that was a bit of a turning point in my career. But Foley was pretty intense, but again, not in a bad way. Like, just he just really wanted us all to succeed, put everything into it. So he wanted us to obviously take it as serious as he did, and I would say that's part of the reason why we had a good second half of the season. So Foley was a good and intense coach. I have lots of coaches. It'd be tough to kind of think right now. I remember Wayne Marchment was, the Marchments are pretty wild. I didn't have him for very long, but I remember he was pretty intense. And I think he told me one time, if you don't score a goal every night, you should go home and kill your mother. Was his comment. I don't know if that one's maybe one you should cut, Flem, but he had some pretty good, he was a great guy, but he was pretty intense too. Yeah, tough to kind of think back over all of them.
Foley was such a good guy, though. Like, I love Foley as well, because he would put so much passion into it, but at the same time, he was a player's coach. Like, you knew, like, hey, yeah, I want to run through a fucking wall for this guy. I don't want to, I'm sure you've had some too, where you have some of those asshole guys where you're like, I know I had one at AAA. I don't think you're on the team that year, and it's like, man, like, you're hard on guys, but then you're an asshole. Like, no, I don't even want to. It makes you go the other way, right? Yeah. Certain guys, like Foley was one of them, where they could be hard on you, but at the same time, you knew it meant best. So you would put that extra effort, and you wanted, like I said, go through walls. So, and I think that's the biggest thing with coaching, is you got to connect with the players one way or the other. You can be a hard ass, but you got to connect. I'll got a question, Flem, before. Have you ever thought about coaching or anything like that? Or getting into the game some way, that way?
Yeah, I would like to. I definitely would like to, because like I said, the game and everybody involved have given so much for me to have such a great career. So I definitely want to be able to give back, or, even give a bit of that back to somebody else. So I definitely will. But I think, like, you'd have to be fully ready to kind of give it your all, because my brother-in-law was coaching a AAA team and asked if I could help, and I had a decent amount going on. So I said, yeah, I'd come out to practices and like move pucks around and help out. It wasn't long before parents were calling me, and I was, people ragging on other people and stuff like that, that I was like, holy, I kind of forgot about all the other stuff that goes along with being a coach. And I wasn't really in the mindset to get that deep into it. So it was a good eye opener for me that I definitely do want to do it, but I need to wait till I'm ready to give it my all, because that's what it requires.
Yeah, that AAA system or even anything, I've been involved with it, and there's a lot of politics, but you want to be able to go. If you can't give it, your full effort, you know what it's like. Same thing as playing. It's not really worth it, right? And you feel bad for the players. So, but I definitely could see it. You coaching, buddy. I think you'd connect well with the players, right? If you had a balance of a guy that was a little bit more intimidating, and then you sitting there, that would be one hell of a teamwork. So, hey, you never know with kids when we've all got young kids. As they get older, you might be able to coach them with whether it's hockey or even baseball, right?
Yeah, I kind of always pictured that being a natural segue into doing it. So we'll see. But one way or another, I'd like to try it out at some point for sure.
For sure. Well, Fleming, you got any more questions, bud?
Oh, that's it for me, buddy.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for coming on there, Nicky. It's been a ton of fun, and it's great to hear about your career and all the fun stories, and bring back some memories that you and I had with a bunch of our good buddies along the way as well. So appreciate you coming on, and I know I've been a HockeyStickMan Walshy repair guy for over a decade. It's all I use. Don't go through that many sticks anymore, but so anybody looking for hockey sticks, HockeyStickMan, Maitland Drive, or is it HockeyStickMan.ca, or what's the website?
Yeah, HockeyStickMan.ca, yeah.
Yeah, and what else you guys sell? You got like equipment too and stuff, don't you? Or
Yeah, sticks has always been our big thing, but with we have all the gear as well, and just haven't had the space to really display it. So once we get into this new building, we'll hopefully our goal and what we're aiming towards is being like the go-to store if you're a hockey player, like the one-stop shop, everything you'd ever need. So it'll take a bit to get there, but that's what we're shooting for.
yeah, I know Fleming and I actually both bought helmets last year there. But no, and you guys sell yard games too, right?
Yeah, well, we just tried to do a bit of a, hockey really slowed down at the start of the pandemic, and we weren't really sure what we were going to do. So we tried to take a quick 180 into something people could do at their homes during the pandemic. But then once hockey started back up, we kind of focused on our main business. So that's kind of fallen to the wayside.
Yeah, well, I guess that makes sense. The reason why I laughed about the hockey helmets because they're both the 67s helmets. So I was like, you play for the 67s? I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, a long time ago, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the issue with our small store right now is that we have helmets, but I don't know if you had to dig it out from underneath a shelf in the sea can to get one, but they're there somewhere.
So when is the big opening supposed to happen with the expansion here?
Hopefully this summer. We're pushing forward pretty good right now, and then once we get in there, we'll have to kind of set everything up the way we want. Hopefully have it shoppable in the summer, but then we'll probably aim to do a grand opening late summer.
That'll be perfect. Gear right up for hockey season, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's awesome, buddy. Best of luck to you and obviously Joey and the rest of the team at HockeyStickMan, and to Duddy down in Vegas. And thanks a lot for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure we'll see you around the rinks.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's been fun.
Beauty.
Thanks a lot, buddy. Cheers, bud.
Take care.